Think about the last thing you promised yourself you would stop doing. Maybe it was scrolling late at night, reaching for junk food when you were stressed, checking someone's profile even though you knew it would mess with your head, or putting off something important until tomorrow. What's strange is that you didn't forget it was bad for you. You knew exactly what it was costing you, and yet your hand still moved before your mind could stop it. That moment is not a lack of discipline. It is your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do. Most people believe bad habits exist because something is wrong with them. They think they are weak, lazy, or missing some rare trait called self-control. That belief feels personal, almost insulting, and that is why it keeps hurting. But the hidden truth is much more unsettling and much more freeing. Your brain loves bad habits, not because they are bad, but because they solve a problem your brain is obsessed with solving: safety, relief, and predictability. Even when those habits slowly damage your confidence, your health, or your relationships, your brain still sees them as allies. Here is where things get uncomfortable. If your brain loves these habits, then fighting them directly will almost always fail. That internal war where you promise yourself change and then feel ashamed when you break it is part of why the habit feels so powerful. And if you have ever wondered why some people seem effortlessly disciplined while you keep circling the same behaviors, the answer is not what you think. We'll come back to that because it changes how you see yourself permanently. Let's start with something simple and deeply human. Imagine a moment when you felt rejected, ignored, or not good enough. Maybe it was a text that never came, a look that didn't last, or silence where you expected warmth. Your body reacted before your thoughts did. A tight chest, shallow breathing, a need to escape that feeling. What did you do next? You didn't analyze your emotions. You reached for something familiar: your phone, food, distraction, fantasy, or control. That reaction is not accidental. It is your brain protecting you from emotional pain. Your brain evolved long before modern life. It does not care about your long-term goals, your future self, or how proud you want to feel next year. It cares about reducing discomfort right now. Emotional pain registers in the brain in ways that are surprisingly similar to physical pain. When you feel rejected, uncertain, or overwhelmed, your brain searches for the fastest possible way to bring relief. Bad habits are fast, they are reliable, they work every time, at least temporarily. This is why bad habits form so easily during emotionally intense periods: breakups, loneliness, pressure, boredom, or feeling invisible. The habit becomes associated not with pleasure, but with relief. That association is powerful. Relief teaches your brain faster than reward ever could. Once your brain learns that a certain behavior reduces emotional discomfort, it tags that behavior as important, necessary, even protective. This is where dopamine enters the story, but not in the way most people think. Dopamine is often described as the pleasure chemical, but that is misleading. Dopamine is more accurately the anticipation chemical. It spikes not when you feel good, but when your brain predicts relief or reward. Over time, your brain learns to anticipate the habit before you even feel the discomfort fully. That is why urges seem to come out of nowhere. They are not random, they are predictions. Your brain notices patterns you never consciously register: time of day, emotional states, locations, even subtle thoughts. When those patterns appear, your brain releases dopamine to push you toward the habit that previously solved the problem. This happens faster than conscious thought. By the time you notice the urge, the process is already underway. That is why telling yourself to just stop feels useless in the moment. Now, here is the part that changes everything. Your brain does not distinguish between a good solution and a harmful one. It only measures effectiveness in the short term. If scrolling distracts you from loneliness, it works. If overeating numbs stress, it works. If avoiding confrontation protects you from rejection, it works. Your brain rewards effectiveness, not wisdom. That is why intelligent, self-aware people often struggle the most with bad habits. Their brains are very good at finding quick emotional solutions. This also explains why willpower is an unreliable weapon. Willpower is slow. It requires conscious effort, energy, and emotional stability. Bad habits are fast. They live in parts of the brain that operate automatically. When you are tired, stressed, or emotionally vulnerable, willpower is the first thing to disappear. That is not a moral failure. It is a neurological reality. Think about attraction and social dynamics for a moment. Many people develop habits around validation, checking messages, seeking attention, replaying conversations, or staying attached to people who treat them poorly. These habits are often framed as insecurity, but look closer. They reduce uncertainty. They give small hits of reassurance. Even negative attention can feel better than silence, because silence feels like danger to the social brain. Your brain would rather feel anxious than invisible. This is why people stay in emotional loops that drain them. The habit is not the problem. The problem is what the habit protects them from feeling. When you try to remove the habit without addressing the emotional function it serves, your brain panics. It feels exposed, vulnerable. That panic pushes you back to the behavior with even more force. There is another layer most people never consider. Bad habits often become part of your identity, not consciously, but neurologically. When a behavior is repeated enough, your brain starts to associate it with who you are. This creates a subtle internal conflict. Changing the habit feels like losing a part of yourself, even if that part is harming you. This is why people sabotage progress right when things start improving. Stability can feel unfamiliar, and unfamiliar feels unsafe. Your brain prefers the pain it knows over the uncertainty it does not. This is especially true if you grew up in environments where chaos, inconsistency, or emotional unpredictability were normal. In those cases, bad habits are not just coping mechanisms, they are anchors. They provide a sense of control when the world feels unstable. At this point, many people ask the wrong question. They ask, how do I get rid of bad habits? That question assumes the habit is the enemy, but the habit is a messenger. It is carrying information about an unmet need, an unresolved emotion, or a missing sense of safety. When you listen to the message instead of attacking the behavior, something shifts. This is where most advice fails. It focuses on discipline, routines, and punishment. Those tools can work temporarily, but they rarely last. The brain eventually rebels against force. Sustainable change comes from replacement, not removal. Your brain does not want emptiness, it wants function. If a habit reduces stress, you need another behavior that reduces stress in a way your brain accepts as effective. That replacement must meet 3 conditions. It must be immediate enough to compete with the old habit. It must feel emotionally relevant, not just logically good. And it must be repeatable without excessive effort. This is why extreme solutions rarely stick. They demand too much from a system designed to conserve energy. There is a subtle power move here that few people talk about. Instead of trying to become someone with perfect habits, you become someone who understands their own psychology. That shift alone restores a sense of control. You stop seeing yourself as broken and start seeing patterns. Patterns can be changed, shame cannot. If this way of breaking down behavior feels different from what you usually hear, this is exactly the kind of perspective explored on the human psychology. Understanding why you do what you do is often more powerful than any motivational speech, and it changes how you relate to yourself. Let's talk about respect, because habits influence how others perceive you more than you realize. People are drawn to emotional stability. They sense when someone is driven by unconscious urges versus conscious choice. When bad habits control you, they leak into your posture, your tone, your reactions. You may not notice it, but others do. Breaking the grip of these habits is not just about productivity or health, it is about presence. Here's an uncomfortable truth. Some bad habits keep you small. They prevent you from outgrowing environments, relationships, or roles that no longer fit. On a deeper level, your brain may associate growth with risk. Standing out invites judgment. Change invites loss. The habit becomes a way to stay hidden even when you consciously want more from life. This is why fear is often disguised as comfort. The habit feels safe because it is familiar, not because it is good. When you understand that, you stop romanticizing comfort. You start questioning it. That questioning weakens the habit's grip. Let's return to the people who seem effortlessly disciplined. They are not superior. They simply have habits that align with their emotional regulation. Their behaviors give them relief without self-destruction. That alignment usually comes from environments, experiences, or awareness, not from character. This means alignment can be learned. One of the most effective ways to loosen a bad habit is to interrupt the prediction loop, not by resisting the urge, but by delaying it. Even a short delay forces the brain to engage different circuits. During that delay, curiosity matters more than control. Ask yourself what emotion is present, not what rule you're breaking. Naming the emotion reduces its intensity. That is neuroscience, not positive thinking. Over time, these small interruptions teach your brain that discomfort is survivable. That lesson is revolutionary. Once your brain learns it does not need immediate relief to stay safe, the urgency fades. The habit loses its power not because you fought it, but because you outgrew its purpose. There is also a social dimension. Many habits are reinforced by isolation. When no one sees you, there is no mirror. Connection, even minimal, regulates the nervous system. This is why talking about struggles reduces their grip. Your brain interprets connection as safety. Safety reduces the need for escape. If you find yourself drawn to content like this, questioning your patterns and wanting deeper self-control without self-punishment, staying connected to the human psychology makes sense, not as a subscription, but as an ongoing conversation with your own mind. As we move toward the end, here is the realization most people never reach. You are not addicted to bad habits. You are attached to the version of you that survived because of them. Honoring that version instead of hating it is what allows change. When you thank a habit for what it once did, you remove the internal resistance that keeps it alive. Your brain is not your enemy. It is a protector using outdated strategies. When you update the strategy, the protection adapts, slowly, quietly, without force. That process does not look dramatic. It looks boring, gentle, and deeply respectful of your nervous system. The next time you feel the pull of a habit you want to escape, pause and notice the intelligence behind it. Notice what it is trying to solve. In that moment, you are no longer powerless. You are aware. Awareness is the beginning of choice. And when you finally replace judgment with understanding, something subtle happens. The habit stops feeling like a monster. It becomes a signal you know how to read. That is when real control begins.